All right, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Chris Wamsley. I'm senior meteorologist with America's Weather streaming channel. Uh, Hurricane Lee, by the way, the center is close to landfall, closer than it's ever been, but it'll still be later on today before it actually makes full landfall. It may graze Nova Scotia, but for the most part, further north. And this is for Saturday, September 15th, 11 a.m. update. Just a little bit ago, 93 mile an hour wind gust was recorded at Grand Manan Island, which is in between Nova Scotia and Maine. And I'll kind of show that, but it's on the northern periphery of the Bay of Fundy. So I wanted to quickly go over our greatest concern for coastal flooding, inundation, and overwash, even though very rocky areas in places. We're looking at the high tide cycle, which is around noon to 2 p.m. over portions of Maine. The areas that I actually are talking about or typed in on the left side, most of them around noon, but some other areas close to 2 p.m. Most of these areas are going to be minor flooding, inundations, the usual spots, nor'easters, flood. Most of them will not reach the moderate category, but if they do, it'll be on the low end. So at 11 o'clock, it is 75 mile an hour winds, but Lee is what we call a post-tropical cyclone. And what that means is a former cyclone that no longer possesses enough tropical qualities to be considered a tropical cyclone. It's more of a nor'easter now. And what that means is tropical characteristics, okay? So here's the Gulf Stream. And anywhere south is the warm, soupy water. So we usually will consider tropical storms, hurricanes in this category, in this area, okay? Gulf and all that. But once they reach north of this, there's enough cold core energy, and with the water is much colder. Doesn't have tropical characteristics with it. So this is being entrained in a Hurricane Lee. So now it's being considered post-tropical cyclone. Okay, it's just a terminology. So here's Hurricane Lee currently, the center of it, and you can tell it's widespread in cloud cover over the New England. And then here is Manan, the island. This is where 93 miles an hour was recorded, which Maine is pretty close to that. So with thunderstorm activity, Maine could see gusts upwards of 80 to 90 miles an hour with thunderstorm activity. But generally, I would say the coastal section of Maine, the Cape and the islands, you're generally looking at 20 to 30 mile an hour sustained and up to 50 miles an hour now as far as gusts. As you move into Maine, generally the coast, we're looking at 30 to 40 mile an hour wind sustained and gusts to 50 to 60 miles an hour, but outside of that could be higher, okay, especially up here where the thunderstorm activity is ongoing. So here is the radar imagery of current. And you can tell the heaviest rain is confined mainly to the eastern sections of Maine. But you're also getting into the area from here that actually had all that rainfall over the last 3 days, okay? And it's pushing over the area that I talked about would be the most susceptible to flooding, and that would be in this area. We already had the heavy bands initially go over it, and we could see more bands actually produced into it. But the central part of Maine is now going to be the main concern into early afternoon with the heaviest rain bands. So this is the forecast over the next 3 days. Most of it's going to be confined to today into tonight before ending. And this is mainly going to be where the flood threat is in yellow. But again, I talked about further to the west in the central part of Maine, that could actually see some flooding due to the fact of the heavy rains that have occurred over the past couple of days. So again, this is a model data showing the strongest winds occurring. And notice this yellow area was pretty close to Cape Manon. This would be sustained winds of 50 miles an hour and then gusts higher than that. So this was pretty darn good as far as showing where the heaviest winds were going to be. But you could see wind gusts here of 50, 60, possibly 70 miles an hour over the tip of Maine. But generally, most of the area will see gusts to upwards to 50 miles an hour. And then, of course, earlier today, the Cape and Islands were seeing close to 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. Okay. And those were like gusts. So because the ground is so saturated over Maine, trees still have leaves on them. There's going to be numerous power outages possible, falling on power lines and other power lines just snapping, breaking, and there'll be a lot of power outages. And some of these power outages could last for days, especially in rural areas, okay? So be wary of that. And I also wanted to say, even though the storm is ongoing, a lot of times you can be evacuated or told to evacuate when there's a gas leak. And if that does occur, make sure to have everything ready. And it's funny because if you bring canned food with you, a lot of people have done so, but they forgot the can opener. So it's very difficult, as you know, to open a can if you don't have a can opener, if it doesn't have that thumb key in the middle to open it up. So just be wary of that. I thought I'd bring that up because a lot of people have told me in the past they forgot that. Documents, make sure you bring your documents with you. Put them in a Ziploc bag that will protect them. Low denomination of cash is always needed. A lot of places don't have change because they run out of money. The ATMs as well may not have any cash, so it's always good to bring 2 rolls of quarters with you because vending machines outside of businesses will still usually be on. And you could get soda and chips and drinks with that. And also, if you had pet owners, you could still call the shelters. They're going to be busy, but they could offer advice of where to take your pet. What to do after? I added some more, so this is not the same as what I put on there earlier. Electrical equipment, do not touch, especially if they're in water or you're actually standing in water, okay? It could be a live electrical line that you don't know about. Also, do not start walking in the water because there's dangerous pathogens that can cause illness, debris, chemicals, snakes, waste, and wildlife, okay? So do not walk through the water if you can not. Save phone calls for emergencies. Your phone isn't going to have a huge battery life. The best thing to do is text people and put it on social media so that people know you're okay. That way you can save your phone. Have photographs with you of your pets, especially if they come. That way they can be identified later if a shelter has them, and you could say, hey, this is my pet, okay? So next update will be sometime later today. The email you can reach me at for questions. I'm getting a lot of them, but I'm answering them. Chris@americasweathersc.com. Again, Chris@americaweathersc.com. I'm happy to answer the questions for you. So with that, I'll let you go, and hopefully everybody stays safe. Thanks again for listening.